Hardcore Kid here, and hey, tonight's Halloween. You know what that means? Time to head back to Elm Street. Today, I'm going to be taking a look at the final film in what a lot of Nightmare on Elm Street fans like to consider the Dream Warriors trilogy. Now, in Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors wasn't as scary as the original, but it was still a very well-made movie that featured great special effects and a cast of characters that were actually somewhat likable. It also introduced the concept of Freddy using a victim's weakness to torture them before eventually killing them.
Welcome to prime time, bitch!
A really sick, but overall enjoyable 80s horror flick, and I would give it a recommendation. Also, the Dawkins music video is fucking awesome, man, so check that out as well. Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master, directed by Die Hard 2's Rennie Harlin, was once again a very good-looking movie with great special effects, but it was plagued by two issues. One, after the Dream Warriors were killed off and Alice Johnson was made the new hero, the movie got really dulled down. I found the new characters to be really bland and nowhere near as likable as the ones in Dream Warriors. And number two, a lot of the scenes with Freddy came off as more comedic than scary.
Krueger! Well, it ain't Dr. Seuss.
So like many horror film franchises, the fourth or fifth film always seems to be the one where the series immediately jumps the shark. And just when you thought the Dream Master was lame, along comes our feature presentation, A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. Released in 1989, right when some horror film franchises were starting to go stale. But is it really that bad? Well, consider the fact that it got very little publicity, made almost no money, was directed by the same asshole that did Predator 2 and Lost in Space, and featured an unbelievably shit music video by Houdini.
We don't subtract, divide, or hide. Houdini adds and multiplies. Both in the form of the Most High. Simple mathematics called self-development. Anything else is totally irrelevant.
Yeah, I don't even think they seem to care anymore. Now, I was never really looking forward to reviewing this movie, but you know what? Since it is Halloween and I have nothing else better to do, I'll give it a shot. Give my fans a break from watching all those Robot Wars reviews, right? Well, let's get to watching A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. And oh, since it is Halloween and I want this to be very special, we're going to be watching the Uncut Edition, with extended death scenes for all you hardcore fans out there. So let's sit back, relax, and get to watching it. Roll the footage. So the movie starts off with, whoa! Hello, dimly lit nudity! Wasn't expecting you amongst this overblown music in the background. So we start off with what is assumably Alice and Dan, the survivors from the last film, having a bit of R&R, until Alice decides to take a shower. Enjoy leering at Lisa Wilcox's ass behind that fogged-up shower glass, everybody, because that's the only time you're ever gonna see it. Then all of a sudden, the shower starts going apeshit and filling up with water. Alice eventually manages to break through the glass door, only to end up in an empty hallway in her birthday suit. As she makes her way down the hallway, she suddenly finds herself dressed as a nun inside a room filled with a bunch of crazed pedophores, including, hey, a makeupless Robert Englund. Who knew? As it turns out, this is the room of the 100 maniacs that raped Amanda Krueger at Springwood Asylum, resulting in the birth of Freddy, aka the bastard son of 100 maniacs. Alice realizes that she is Amanda Krueger, and is left to be raped by the Arkham rejects. But hey, it's only a dream. Sure enough, she wakes up safe and sound with Dan. Or does she? Hi, Robert Englund! So after a night of incoherent exposition, we cut to Alice and Dan's graduation. We're then introduced to three new characters. Yvonne, a hospital assistant who likes to swim, Greta, a doll collector who's looking to become a supermodel, and Mark, a comic book geek/virgin who has a fear of blood, despite the fact that he likes to draw a bunch of gory comics.
Yeah, when are you gonna run away with me?
Next slide. What's that?
My undying love, have some.
So this dial owner is basically an 80s version of Linkara.
What's really wrong?
I had one of those dreams last night.
About him?
Well, not exactly. I just felt like I wasn't in control. For the first time since all that.
If you don't dream him up, he can't hurt you. Or us.
Hey, you're right, Dano. After all, Alice is the Dream Master. She's the one who defeated Freddy and released all the souls of his victims. So there's really no other way or reason for him to come back. Unless some really stupid plot convenience just seems to pop up out of nowhere. And sure enough, as Alice makes her way back to her house, she suddenly starts hearing the Freddy chant. What? Damn you, him-he! How dare you ruin the last line of the Freddy chant! Now the song has no meaning anymore! So Alice spots a nun running into what I assume is an old version of the asylum from Part 3. Then, the next thing she knows, she's on a hospital bed being wheeled into the maternity ward. Then suddenly, she's a nurse, and now it's a young Amanda Kruger on the bed, giving birth. Woof! I know dreams are meant to play tricks on you, but I'm just getting disoriented here. So Amanda gives birth to, the bastard son of E.T., which then runs through a door into the church where Freddy and Alice had their epic final battle. Then the ugly midget starts going batshit, and suddenly the whole floor of the church starts lifting up from its foundations. Windows start to explode, and soon Freddy is standing tall. And then he falls down. And I thought being resurrected by a dog pissing fire was embarrassing.
It's a boy!
So Freddy is back, and by Chris Farley's cheesecake, he looks like shit. What the hell happened to you, Freddy? Did losing all those souls make you age 30 years?
Thanks, babe. It's my new look. Like it?
No, I don't like it. You look like my grandpa, and he's dead. Back to Freddy and Alice in the church, and believe it or not, just like his victims, Freddy has a fear of his own. His mother, Amanda.
Your birth was a curse on the whole of humanity. I will not allow it to happen again. You brought me back to give you life, but now I must take yours.
We'll see, bitch. We'll just see.
So Amanda tells Alice that her soul needs to be released from the tower of the asylum. But before Alice could catch up to her, she suddenly finds herself in the cafe, back in the awake world. So it appears that Alice can now shift from the awake world to the dream world completely out of her control. So, if Alice isn't the one making herself dream, then how is she? And why is she? It's like if I just stepped outside that door right there, and all of a sudden, I'm in the dream world.
I am going to molest you!
Point taken, let's get bacon. Alice tries to get a hold of Dan, who's at a graduation party with all the other kids at a swimming pool.
Sometimes I feel like I'm living with Melisarides.
Who?
Melisarides is this ancient guy I read about, right? Who, like, killed his kids because he didn't like the way they were running the kingdom.
And it's right about now that I talk about these new characters. And oh, sweet Christmas, they literally put me to sleep. Now, if you thought all the new kids in the Dream Master were bland, well, these guys are so dull and unlikable that I doubt you won't even be able to remember their own names. Oh, who's that chick? That's Sheila, I think. How about her? Isn't that Nancy? No, that's Greta. This is the old slasher movie cliche where a bunch of characters are introduced with very little personality and are really only there as fresh meat for the villain. Oh boy, I wonder who Freddy is going to pick off first. And believe it or not, it's our good friend Dan. After receiving a distress call from Alice, Dan heads to the cafe in his truck. But along the way, he falls asleep at the wheel, and Freddy strikes.
Back here, Dan!
Hey, don't say that to Father Jack.
Jacob's Creek Chardonnay 1991!
Finally, Dan manages to get a hold of the brakes and goes flying through the windshield back at the now deserted swimming pool. Unable to get back into his truck, Dan decides to steal a motorcycle. But Freddy still has a few sick tricks up his sleeve. You know how Dan was always considered a speed demon on the high school football team? Well, Freddy decides to turn him into an actual speed demon.
This boy feels the need for speed. Fuel injection! Power drive! Fast lane!
And they actually had to trim the scene down in the theatrical release in order to get a proper R rating. Pussies.
Hey, Danny! Better not dream and drive!
Alice rushes out of the cafe, only to find that Dan's truck has crashed into a semi.
Alice! Wanna make babies?
Greatest pickup line ever. So Alice faints and wakes up in a hospital bed with Yvonne by her side.
Dan's dead. No. Not Dan. It's starting again.
These sorts of outbursts aren't entirely uncommon. Many women have them at the beginning, especially if they've suffered a traumatic shock. Don't worry, young lady. You're gonna be fine.
What's wrong with me? Nothing. You're just a little pregnant.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with you, Alice. It's just that now your boyfriend's dead and you're carrying his child. No big deal, right?
You're kidding. You're kidding, right?
So Alice spends a night in the hospital and ends up falling asleep. But instead of Freddy popping out on a murderous, maniacal rampage, along comes a little boy named Jacob, played by Whitby Hertford.
Shouldn't you be in a room, Jacob?
It's lonely there.
Well, my name
I'm
is...
sorry your boyfriend got killed.
How did you know that?
I could tell you were sad. I just wanted to see if you're all right.
That's right, dudes and dudettes. This little ugly runt here is the glue that's holding this film together. Unfortunately, it's wood glue.
Jacob, wait, don't go.
And in terms of cinema, no performance is good when it's wooden. So Alice rounds up her friends and tells them all about Freddy Krueger and how he killed all the kids who lived on Elm Street.
He uses my dreams to bring him his victims. It's my fault that Dan's dead.
Stop saying that. That's bullshit.
You know, nothing for nothing, but does anybody find it absolutely remarkable how we're now 5 movies in and there are still kids that are completely oblivious to all the killings that have happened in Springwood? And I'm not even exaggerating here. Over 20 people have been killed in the last 5 years, most of which lived on Elm Street. How is it that this epidemic hasn't gotten the attention of everyone else in town? And speaking of which, whatever happened to Neil Gordon, the only surviving adult character who was actually aware of Freddy's actions? I know he actually made an appearance in the comic Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash Nightmare Warriors, but here, no. He's MIA after part 3.
He gets in through my dreams somehow. And I thought I could control it, but something's changed, and I don't know what he'll do next.
Look, Alice. We all know you're upset.
Bottom line, Alice, if anybody's trying to hurt you, supernatural or not, you're gonna have to go through us first.
I smell foreshadowing!